Welcome back. I'm Mark Weber, and in this video we're going to learn the basics of metalworking, sheet metalworking, and we're going to build your first transition. This is obviously smaller than the transition you would actually build in the field, but it's a good starter piece. It's 6 inches across, it's 4 inches deep, and 4 inches wide. It has a 1-inch flange all the way around on each side, and a Pittsburgh here in the corner holding it all together. So we're going to go through this. Before we do though, I hope you watched the video on tools and how to make a Pittsburgh. And remember the safety rules that we talked about. Now, I suggest you wear leather gloves because the sheet metal is sharp and it will cut. Also, be sure to wear your safety glasses at all times. And so let's get started on this transition. The full-size sheets of metal come in 3-foot by 8-foot lengths. I just grabbed a scrap out of our metal bin back here, and I'm going to cut 6 inches off the end here. Now normally I would use a scribe, but so it's easier for you to see, I'm going to use a felt pen. So first thing I'm going to do is measure out 6 inches here. And give myself a line to draw on here. Now, these are right-handed snips. The green handles are left-handed snips. I like these because it gets my hand away from the metal and less chance of cutting. These are great for making curves like this. The left-handed ones can make curves like that. They come in a straight snip like that. This is the one I prefer to use. So I'm going to cut my piece off now. Okay, I just got my 6 by 36 inch piece. I'm going to slide this up out of my way here. Now I need to start laying it out with my cut and bend lines. We know that we have a 1-inch flange on each side and the width is 4 inches. So I can do my flanges on each side here. So that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to lay out my flanges. And I think I'm going to turn this around like this. So I'm going to mark an inch in here and an inch in here. So there's my 1-inch flange for the one side. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Now I know how where my flanges are going to go. This center portion is right on 4 inches. So to lay this out, I've got a Pittsburgh that's going to join this whole thing together. So I'm going to make the male tab for my Pittsburgh first, and that's 3/8 of an inch. So I'll mark out my 3/8 of an inch. Draw a line like so. Now I've got a top and a bottom that are 6 inches and 2 sides that are 4 inches. So I'm going to mark out my top. That's 6 inches. Now I've got an end at 4 inches. I've got the bottom at 6 inches. Well, let's make that easy here, so I'm just going to go, there's 6. And now I've got one more 4-inch piece down here. So I've got my top, my bottom, and my 2 ends, and I've got the tab for my Pittsburgh, but now I need to have enough metal to do the rest of the Pittsburgh, and that's 1 1/4 inch. So I'll measure another 1 1/4 inch up from that. Okay, I don't need the rest of this metal. So I'm going to cut the end off here. Alright, let's set that off to the side. So here's my piece. I still have some laying out to do though. I could cut and bend these, but it's difficult to do with the square edges. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to notch, and I'm going to take a little bit off of my Pittsburgh here. So I'm going to cut my end like this. So this piece and this piece go away. Now where each of these corners is, I need another notch. And again, down where the male end of my Pittsburgh is, I want to notch that corner. And then I want to take just a little bit and notch this Pittsburgh just a little bit. Okay, so this is how it's laid out. I've got my top, one end, the bottom, one end. I've got my Pittsburgh and my Pittsburgh. Now I'm ready to start cutting. So I'll cut right to the corner. These little pieces do not go on the floor. I'm going to make a pile of them right here. Those and slivers. Sometimes you'll cut a sliver off when you're cutting metal. They do not go on the floor. These have very sharp points. They can work their way through a pair of tennis shoes or work boots pretty quickly. So all metal goes on the floor. If you drop a piece, find it. If you need to get the vacuum out to vacuum it up, do it. So now I'm just going to continue cutting my notches, and then I'll be ready to go over to the brake. Now I have my piece all cut. Where my lines are, I want this to be the inside of the box. But I do need to make my measurements for my Pittsburgh. It's the final layout I need to do before moving on to the brake. So I'm going to carefully mark the back side here. going to measure up a 1/2 inch. These are my fold lines for my Pittsburgh. Okay, now we're ready to get on to the brake. I've got my piece over here at the brake now, and the first thing I want to bend is my Pittsburgh. Now, if you recall, with the Pittsburgh, I'm going to bend this way and then back this way. So my first bend, and I'm going to bend this up, and I'm going to go slightly past 90 degrees. I'm then going to insert it like this. I'm going to take that all the way over. So now I've got the start of my Pittsburgh. I want to flatten this out so that it doesn't interfere with the rest of the bends I'm going to make. So I'm going to take my hammer, and I hammer it over. Next thing I want to do is I want to get my flanges started. And I want a nice clean line for those, but if I bend them all the way up to 90 degrees, it'll be impossible for me to make these other bends. I'm going to set this in so that I'm right on the line, and I'm just going to make a bend, just like that. Not much of a bend, but it gives me a nice clean edge. Turn it around. Get my brake locked down and do the same thing. Okay, so I've got a piece that looks like this now. Here comes the tricky part. The tendency is to stick it in like this and make my first bend. What you need to do actually is stick it all the way through and reach over the top here and line up the tab for my Pittsburgh. And I'm going to bend that to 90 degrees. I'm going to release. I'm going to pull this forward. Line it up on my next bend. Take that up to 90 degrees. Release. Take this up to 90 degrees. And get my last one lined up here. Now I can pull this thing up out of the way and take that bend all the way to 90 degrees. There we go. So that's how it's going to go together. But now I have to deal with my flanges. And that's where this tool comes in handy. And it's going to be easier to do over on the bench, but I'm going to show you basically how I do this. I insert it in right to the crease. Well, I'm going to go over here to the table where it's easier. And then I'm going to finish bending it to 90 degrees. Okay, so I've got my flanges made. Now it's just a matter of putting in the Pittsburgh. Sometimes this thing will get a little bent out of shape. I'm going to insert my tab into my Pittsburgh here, and then bend my tab over, and that'll lock it together. Just like we went through in the Pittsburgh video. Okay, so I've locked in my Pittsburgh. Now I want to give this thing a little twist here. And I'm going to just kind of clean up these corners a little bit. Okay, now we have our very simple transition. We've got our flanges, 4 inches, 6 inches, and 4 inches. That's all there is to it.
Go to arefco.com for more videos. Like, subscribe, and check back every week for new videos.